Thank you, Tim. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Nice to see you. Um, Thank you. Our topic tonight is called the greatest virtue. I can't take any credit for what we're going to see tonight because it's all from chapter 15 in the Gospel according to Spiritism, which is entitled "Without Charity, There Is No Salvation." So, if you were wondering what the greatest virtue is, it's charity, and we're going to talk more about that tonight. Okay, Tim, 3 hours, yeah.
Four and
Four.
15
Okay.
minutes.
All right. Good. Now we'll keep it short. Um, so let's jump in. Okay. This chapter has got 10, I think 10 different pieces to it. Short for the most part, but it focuses primarily on the parable of the judgment scene and the good Samaritan, which is found in Matthew. Most of us are familiar with one version or the other of this story. There's many different parts in the Bible that talk about charity, that talk about Samaritans, that talk about the most important commandment and what have you. But we're going to focus on this section because this is what was in chapter 15 of the gospel. As the story goes, right, um, in this judgment scene in the Bible, it talks about the king, right, also known as God, right, or also known as the Father, right, um, um, is going to judge us, right? We pass, right? We die. We we go before God, and on His right side, the blessed ones will be, right? Um, what does He say here? Huh? Come, you who are blessed, take possession of the kingdom of heaven. For I was hungry, and you fed me. I was thirsty, and you gave me water. I was in need of shelter, and you put a roof over my head. You sheltered me. I was naked, and you gave me clothes. I was sick or imprisoned, and you visited me. Right? All of you that have done these things, come here to the right of my side and inherit my kingdom. Right? The gospel goes on to talk about, I put this graphic in there. This is not from the gospel according to Spiritism. I found this online. But there's a picture, right? Our left, his right, the blessed ones, the righteous ones. Yeah. The poor guys on the left didn't make the right choices, as it says, right? If you take it literally in the Bible, right? And he goes on to say, right? The Bible goes on to say that the righteous will answer him, as in being humble, right? What do you mean? When did I feed you? When did I clothe you? I never visited you, Jesus, right? Or God, right? Because they're humble, they're pure of heart, right? When did I do these things? Surprised, like they don't believe that they're deserving. And what does he say to them, right? Well, in Matthew, right, 25:40, Christ responds, right? The king will reply, truly I tell you, whatever you did for the least of my brothers or sisters, you did for me, right? In other words, love your neighbor, treat them well, be charitable. And that's, if you do it to them, you do it for me, is what hit home in these verses, right? So again, if you're on the right side, you did all those things. What about the folks on the left, the spirits on the left? What's going through there? Again, if this was literal, I'm not here suggesting that the gospel according to Spiritism takes this literally. But if that were the case, right, what do we read, right? Well, Christ tells us that next, those on the left will say, "Hey, Jesus, when did I see you homeless? When did I see you thirsty? When did I fail to help you? When did you need help? No way. When were you sick? Right? Like me? What did I do? I didn't do anything wrong, right? How often do we play that game, right? With ourselves, with others, right? Or experience it from other people? And what's the answer that they're given, right? Well, Christ told them, right? As often as you failed to render assistance to the least of my brothers or sisters, you failed to do it to me. Plain and simple, straight and forward, black and white. Love your neighbor, not love your neighbor, not make the right choices, and you're destined for the pearly gates, um, eternity of joy and bliss, right? If you on the left, fire and brimstone and hell, right? Now, to continue, right? It's after this, in the chapter 15 of the Gospel according to Spiritism, that um, we get to Luke, right, where he talks about where they take this example, right? This is the law, right? This is going way back in time. Old Testament talks about an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. Christ introduces the good news, and loving your neighbor and being charitable, turning the other cheek. And at some point, Christ is being interrogated, right? What's that?
It's kind of trick. They
Oh,
try to,
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. They try to trick him, right? Because they want him to commit, what's the word? Heresy, right? Right?
uh-huh.
They want him to talk against the law, right? The God of the God's law, the Jewish law, what have you, the Old Testament, right? The law of the time. He's being interrogated and he's being asked questions, and he's asking questions as Christ often does in the New Testament. He answers questions with questions to make you think or to see what you're thinking. So um, when Jesus is being interrogated and asked, "Hey, what is the most important virtue or the most important commandment?" Right? He turns it around and he says, "Well, to the priests, right? The law, right? The law of the land at the time, the priest." He says, "Well, you tell me, what's written in the law? How do you read it?" And that's the law, as in the Old Testament. These are where you can find the different laws, if you will, right? Or what he's being interrogated about. And he poses the question to the priest, the expert, the lawyer of the time is also how they're referred to at times. And he answered it, right? This is the legal expert at the time, the biblical expert. He said, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your strength and with all your mind, and love your neighbor as yourself." And that's referenced in Luke, right? Again, these are the answers that when he reversed it on them is what he was told. And sure enough, that's the law. That's the truth, right? No issue there. And then the lawyer, well, after Christ tells him, "Yep, you've answered correctly. Do this, and you will live righteously," right? Um, then they try to trap him again, right? And the lawyer asks, "Well, okay, Christ, who's my neighbor?" And this is where we get the parable of the Good Samaritan. Okay, as depicted here, you've got a few people up ahead of the scene here. You've got a man here that's obviously injured, right? This is a scene of,
He
of
was attacked.
yes, he was. Thank you.
Attacked.
He was attacked. Yes, he
Yes.
was. Yes, thank you.
Oh, please.
um, he was attacked and left for dead,
Yes.
right? So remember, the first person that passed him, right? This was on the road to Jericho, right? He was beaten, left for dead. The first person that passes by in this parable is a priest, right? The highest level of human at the time, right? The pure, right? They live the law, right? They teach. Well, he crossed the street, right? Supposedly he went by the person that was beaten. Then the next level of hierarchy in society at the time are Levites. They're not priests, but they're awful close, right? The Levite does the same thing. He walks right on by, leaves the man for dead, doesn't do anything to assist. Now, a Samaritan, which were considered heretics at the time, right? They weren't necessarily the favored class, right? The Samaritan stops and takes pity on the man that was left for dead, right? So the good Samaritan, right, does what? Go back to the picture, right? He picks him up, he wipes his wounds, he cleans him up, right? He gave the man a ride to an inn down the road, right? He put him up, he paid the innkeeper, fed him, clothed him, even left a little bit of money with the innkeeper. Said, "Listen, if this isn't enough, I'll give you more when I come back." So the Samaritan doesn't know the man; they're strangers, but he was in need, and he helped. He came to his aid when two other people had passed by. So that's the story of the Good Samaritan. And when Christ is finished with this, right? He asked the Lord. Now Christ is asking the questions, right? He says, "Listen, I just told you this story. Which one of these people do you think was a neighbor to the man that fell victim to the robbers? Well, obviously, right? We know what the lawyer said. I think we'd all say the same thing. It's pretty obvious.
Mhm.
The one who had mercy on him, by all means. So, if we were to take the parable of the Good Samaritan, including the questions and answers from the attorneys, what the gospel according to Spiritism expresses in the next part of the chapter, I forget, it's item 4 or item 5, I think, that we could sum up all of Christ's teaching. If you took the whole gospel, right, all of his teachings, all the books of the New Testament, all the stories told about him from the disciples and others, you could sum up the good news. You could sum up his teachings with two words: charity and humility. Make sense? I, I often wonder, and I'll say this to people at times, you could be an atheist. You could be any other religion in the world besides a Christian, right? And I think we'd all agree with this, that if we all lived like Christ lived, right, with charity and humility, the world would be a better place. I'm not saying believe in Christ or that he's whatever he is. You keep believing whatever you want to believe. But if we just live by those two, right, charity and humility, the world will be a much happier place, much more peaceful place. Fair enough?
You know,
All right, cool.
charity, we can add something. It's love in action.
Yeah, absolutely. Sure.
Love in action and humility.
Yeah.
It's easy
Yeah, I like
to
that.
get.
Yeah. Also called the religious piece of Spiritism, yeah? Charity,
Uh-huh.
right? Charity.
Yes.
I like the reading that Tim read for us, where he said, well, before the reading in his prayer, he said, guide the speaker and may his talk touch your heart and your mind. And the first thing that came to mind is that's beautiful, but I hope it does more for all of us, that it inspires our thoughts, our words, and our actions, right? Because truly, I can have great feelings in my mind, I can have all the love in my heart, but if I don't
There are no
think,
actions.
yeah, if I don't think or talk good things, then I don't do good things. So I like that. Thank you for the
Oh,
addition.
please.
So,
Please.
um, in other words, right, with these two virtues, they conquer our biggest issues, right? Selfishness and pride. What I like to call, summarize in one word, which is ego. You know what ego stands for?
Oh, yes.
What does it stand for? I'm gonna get you on this one.
Me?
Yeah, what does it stand for?
Again?
I know I'm teasing. I'm being silly. Ego. Well,
Come
this is my definition. This is not
Okay,
from any book. But ego to me stands for edging God out. When I'm in my head, when I'm big chested and all proud and I know everything, there's no room for God in my life.
Okay. Emmanuel sent a passage for us,
Oh
a
yeah.
little short one. And he said, if you see some bad virtues inside the heart,
Yeah.
it's because the good ones is not uh, taking care all the heart.
Okay. I'm not gonna
Oh, I'm a
argue.
good man. I'm a good man. But Carlos, I can see some bad things. Come back to Emmanuel. If you have some bad things yet, that's because the bad things control your heart.
Fair enough. I'm not gonna argue with Emmanuel.
Yeah, no, no, Emmanuel, no. Please, come on.
So, Christ taught us in the gospel, right, or with his example, that if we can lower and reduce our selfishness and pride and live with charity and humility, that truly is the route to eternal happiness. Um, and sure enough, I'm sure you can attest to this. On the days that you live with humility and charity, they probably go a lot smoother. Other people's offenses bother you less. Um, Things that don't go quite as well don't hurt as much, so on and so forth. I think I could definitely say that about my life. When I don't let my ego get in the way and I put other people first or my pride in the back seat, I'm a lot happier. My pride and my ego cause a lot of my problems. But I won't bore you with my problems. Let's continue with chapter 15. Um, and by doing this, we're taught, right, that the blessed, right, the folks that are living humbly and without as much pride, they're the meek, they're the peace loving, they're the merciful, the poor in spirit are the humble, and the pure in heart is what they teach us here
That's
in the
guiding
gospel.
our path.
Absolutely. So they remind us in chapter 15 that Christ taught us, and this is not new to any of us, right? Love your neighbor as yourself. That's important. Do unto others what you would want them done, what you would want done unto you. Love your enemies. I always have a hard one with that one. What do you mean love my enemies? I got to invite them for dinner, right? I got to be nice to them. Well, they're not asking us to go out of our way to bring people over to the house and trust. You don't have to trust your enemies, but you shouldn't wish them harm. You shouldn't hope for their demise. You shouldn't seek revenge. Love them in the sense that you pray for them to improve, that you pray for them to follow their path. Pray for them to stay out of your way, right? Wish them luck, wish them
Don't
success.
deserve the bad for free.
Yeah, but don't wish them bad. Exactly. Exactly. Forgive offenses. I don't know about you, but it's hard turning the other cheek, right? But that's what we're supposed to do, right? Practice good, right? Don't let the right hand see what your left hand is doing, right? Don't do good for show. Um, Judge yourself before judging others. Nothing wrong with me. I'm perfect, right? It's not true, right?
Everybody.
Right?
Oh, yeah,
Right?
that's going to do. We are here.
And this is so easy to read. And some of these are easier to do than others, but they're all really hard to do every day consistently. But these are the things we need to work on. These are the things that will lower our ego, reduce our selfishness.
The magic word is there.
What's
Practice
the
it.
which
Practice
one?
it.
Practice, yeah, right?
Yeah, it's like exercise. If you're not doing, you'll never start. You
Fair
never
enough.
will do.
That's true.
Yes, the exercise of the good things for charity,
Yes.
love in action, you start doing a lot of things around you.
It's contagious too, right?
Easy to see.
It's contagious too.
Oh, yes.
Other people jump
Oh,
in
yeah.
and follow you.
Oh, yeah.
Very true. So again, the gospel talks about humility and charity. They remind us that Jesus walked this path. He lived this path, right? He showed us by example with his thoughts, with his words, with his actions. And it wasn't just things that came out of his mouth, right? He showed us by example that our future happiness wasn't necessarily about our religion, about about the things we had. It was more about the way we treat other people. I mean, here's a man, a pure spirit, that prayed for the people that murdered him, right? Before he died, while they were in the process of crucifying him, right? He was humility, he was humble, and he lived the life of charity, obviously. They remind us in the gospel that when our time comes, right, when we are judged, when we're being held accountable or being asked to account for our actions, and honestly, I don't know exactly what's going to happen, but I have this feeling that all of us are going to be upset, right? Because I do believe that at that point in time, the things that we've done wrong come back, right? And I don't know about you. I try not to think about the things I've done bad. I try not to look backwards. I
This
try
is
to,
the way to learn.
sure, but it's still painful.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
I'd rather not hear the thousands of things that I've done wrong. But what they tell us here in chapter 15 is that's going to happen, right? You're going to be held accountable. But most importantly, right, you're going to be asked about one thing. You're not going to be asked to defend your actions. You're not going to be asked to explain yourself. You're just going to be shown, hey, you had some choices to make. You chose these things. Let's make a plan to improve. And the most important thing at this time is, did you practice charity? Were you kind to others? Did you help others? Did you seek revenge or seek solutions? Were you humble? Were you proud? Right? So you're not you're definitely gonna have some accountability for choices you made, but your good acts, your way you treated other people, the charitable piece of your life it has a heavy percentage of the accounting, right? Were you good to others? Right? Who assisted your brothers and sisters? In other words, in that picture, right? That's the important thing. You're going to go to the right. Not literally, but if we're thinking that way, if you did all those things and you were good, you're going to evolve with less pain, less suffering. If you didn't make the best choices, if you were mean towards others, you're going to be on the left in the sense of you're going to evolve more slowly. You're going to encounter more more obstacles, more opportunities to have to make choices and experience suffering, perhaps more intensely than people that made better choices. Does that make sense, or am I making it too confusing?
Sometimes the gospel assists us, like we
Sometimes,
ask, Sometimes,
Yeah.
just sometimes,
Okay.
assist us like we assist our kids.
I hope not.
Yeah, yeah, but no, if you we
Yeah.
are feeling because the ingenuity from the kids, that's something that we have to follow them
Okay. I
because
definitely
they
think I definitely
yeah
agree.
leave two kids here.
Yeah.
For the first one, give a piece of food.
Yeah.
The second one, nothing.
Okay.
And the camera will record them. You
Okay.
can make the test 1,000
Should we give him
times.
pizza or quiche? I smell quiche
Yeah, we
out
have a
there.
quiche
Yeah. No, I
today,
smelled that. It smells
tonight.
delicious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't cook very well, but I'm doing my best.
They'll be the judge. They'll let us know.
Yes, yeah, don't judge.
Okay.
Yeah, as you said, don't judge.
Right.
But if you we act like a kid, because the kid will divide.
Oh, they're share. You mean?
Yes,
Yeah. Okay.
immediately.
You think?
1,000 times the test prove
Really?
doesn't matter if the kid is a black or Japanese, if you're white or a
You're telling me
language.
if I put two kids in the front row and
The
give one
first
person
one,
a slice,
the first one receive
yeah,
something good, or toy or food.
yeah,
The second one, nothing.
100% of the time they share. You think?
100%.
All right, I
They
love that's
record it.
awesome.
It's
What age?
doesn't matter the age.
Oh,
Yes.
I have
I'm
so
talking-
I
I'm talking about
three
kids.
teenage
Kids.
daughters, and I don't know if they're gonna share.
No, not between them.
I don't know.
But not between them, but between the others.
You mean strangers? So
Strangers.
okay,
Yes, there are no doubt.
All
Because
right.
inside the house, the kids are fighting to get your attention. Okay, come back
Yeah.
to us. We have to act as a kid. Because if we are open our heart, when you say something, I'm not here to judge. No. What he's telling is not good for us. But if you are a kid, you stay like that
all
all
right,
the time.
fair
And
enough.
on the other hand, what happens when the kids are doing things like that? We are talking about practical charity. Yeah? How will you talk to your kids? Good choice, good consequences.
Well, most of the time, yeah,
Bad choice, bad consequences.
yeah.
And you, when you show the picture, you say or said exactly the same thing. In other words,
Okay,
yeah, because the people from the left actually was on the right for us.
Carlos, look at me. We have a time.
Okay.
Let our speakers speak.
Yeah, you just look at me and
Yes.
ask me
look at
something.
me, I look at you.
I agree.
And we look at each other. Great.
Great.
Thank you.
Think about the
We're gonna come
the
down.
kirsch.
Because we saw Monday and we are seeing on Thursday. All right?
Don't forget about.
I will not forget. Nobody will be able to forget you. Ever. So
I'm playing for you. Sorry.
it's all right, man. No
I'm
problem.
in here to laugh.
can I come back there?
Yes.
Because I could listen from there.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
My voice is getting better.
Good. Bad insight.
We'll talk more afterwards. Okay. Thank you so much.
Please.
All right.
Go ahead.
So let's continue. They go on in chapter 15 to ask, right? Does Kardec ask, right? Does anything else matter, right? Well, the spirits answer him, right? We will be judged. Will we? I mean, he asks, will we be based on religion? Does it matter if you're Jewish, atheist, Christian, Hindu? It doesn't matter, right? Will a distinction between our specific beliefs? How many different forms or sects of Christianity are there? Anybody know? Thousands, right? Are they? Can they all be right?
Of course.
Right? So the point is, it doesn't matter. No, you're not going to be judged on anything else other than the good you do in the world, the good you do towards people. As the Samaritan was regarded as a heretic, right? A heretic. He showed love to a neighbor, was placed in this example, right? Christ in the story, right? He showed that heretic was placed above the priest and the Levite, right? The better people in society at the time, because they lacked charity and the Samaritan didn't. So that's the most important virtue, charity. And that's what's most important. when judgment comes. So they remind us that making charity, right, is critical. It's not just one of the conditions of salvation, right? It's the soul condition, right? Like my play on words, soul condition, condition of the soul. I did that. I tried. I don't know. The condition of the soul depends on charity. What does charity mean? Does charity mean I got to whip out my checkbook and donate thousands of dollars?
No,
Does charity mean I have to go feed the homeless every week?
no.
Absolutely not.
This is part of.
She's gonna come out again. I'm telling you. You do not want her to come out twice. I've seen it happen once, and I never want to see it again. Trust me. Is it Carlos? Is that your name?
Yeah.
You don't want to see it. Okay. She gets smoke and fire. It's seriously, man. You don't want to do it. um,
If they can come back for a little word there, it's the soul. Most of the time, we are
So-
spiritists.
so it's the most important thing, and charity doesn't mean you have to make a show out of it. Doesn't mean you have to go out of your way to make sure you're recognized for it. This is my issue. I'm not judging you if you do this, but I have a hard time putting charitable donations on my tax return, because I feel like I don't want to ever do charity, so I get the tax write-off. My accountant says I'm nuts, but the point is, I just want to do good for the sake of doing good. And the gospel would agree with us on this, right? Without charity, there's absolutely no salvation, because what they delineate here for us is you can't truly love God without loving one's neighbors. What did he teach us? What did Christ tell us? Hey, whatever you do to the least of my brothers or sisters, you do that to me. So if you can do that to other people, then how do you really love God, right? And conversely, right? Nor can one love one's neighbor without loving God. It's an extension of that. And everything done against the neighbor is done against God. So it all adds up. Now, as we progress in chapter 15, Paul reinforces that charity is all of these things, right? It's patient. Well, I'm not real charitable on the turnpike in the morning when I'm going to work, because it irks the heck out of me when people are doing 60 in the fast lane, right? Or cut me off going slower. So I prove to myself every morning that I'm being more patient, because I don't tell them they're number one anymore. I don't honk my horn, right? I don't have rage and try to get in front of them. I'm getting more patient, but I still have a lot to do, because it irks the heck out of me. I'm telling you right now. Kind. I do my best to be kind. I'm sure you all do, but I'm not kind all the time. I make poor choices on that somewhat frequently, right? If we really look to it, analyze it. Benevolent, right? What is charity not? It's not envious, right? It's not being envious of what other people have. It's not giving to try to get in that group so you can get more, right? It's not rushed, bless you. It's not rushed, rash, or hurried. It's not full of pride. It's not scornful, but it's patient, kind, and benevolent. Charity doesn't look after its own interests, right? You don't give to get. You shouldn't give to get. It doesn't take offense. It doesn't become upset by anything. It doesn't suspect evil, and it does not rejoice in injustice. If we experience these things in our life, then we are lacking charity, according to Paul. We should work on it. We should not be impacted by these things. And we practice charity when we have less and less of this in our reaction to things. He goes on to say that charity rejoices in the truth, regardless of what it does to you. I mean, something bad you could be experiencing a bad action of some kind, or have a bad consequence of some charity that's being done, and you would still rejoice in it because you see the bigger good, right? It bears all things, it believes all things, it hopes for all things, and it endures all things, regardless of whatever phase of life we're going through, whatever we're experiencing in our life, in our experience. Charity would rejoice in the truth. If we're truly charitable, we will rejoice in all things. Paul goes on to say that there's in the Bible, there's quite a bit taken from this section where it talks about the church is the way, right? Without the church, there's no salvation. Without the truth, there's no salvation. And what Paul talks about, what chapter 15 talks about is that really uniting us, right? Or is it dividing us with all these different forms of Christianity, with all these different religions? And when you read most of their basic tenets and their pillars, they're all pretty similar, right? In a lot of ways. But
There are passages about the church.
what's that?
There are passages
Oh,
just
absolutely.
talking about the church.
Sure, absolutely. And this is what he's talking about, exactly.
Where is the church?
Well,
Okay.
this he's talking about the church in general. I didn't talk. Paul didn't tell us in this chapter about where it was, but essentially what he was saying, the church pits us against each other. The church, as a single denomination, doesn't exist, right? Because no person, no one faith can know the whole truth, right? There's just too much to know. And Kardec even told us, right? He says, listen, Spiritism is this, and this. But if science ever disagrees with us, follow science, right? So things change, right? We evolve, we learn. He says the Paul's telling us here that absolute truth escapes us until we're among the highest order spirits, which if we're living on earth, we're nowhere close. We're way down in the first order type of situation. In other words, humans can only aspire to a relative truth. I can only know as much as I can really understand with the knowledge that I have today, just like you, just like others that are walking the earth. If we're in a physical form on earth, chances are we just don't have enough knowledge to really understand the whole truth. All right. He reminds us that the gospel reminds us that our relative truth is proportional to our advancement. As we evolve morally, as we move on up in this hierarchy of advancement, we will have more of the truth. We'll have a better understanding of the truth. Um, they also go on to say that charity should be maybe practiced by all, but not limited to one denomination. There's just no way that one denomination can get it all correct. And he tells us that if we ever hear this statement, um, without Spiritism, there is no salvation, we should never hear that, because Spiritism doesn't teach a single righteous answer in the sense of we're right, everybody else is wrong. For those of you who are new, what you'll never experience in a center like this, which you should never experience, is hey, you got to convert. You got to come over to our side. All faiths are welcome. Atheists, you're all welcome. It's not about what
Even
you.
me?
Carlos,
much.
even you, buddy.
Okay.
Even you.
Just asking.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The point is, Spiritism does not profess to know it all. It shares a lot of wisdom, it shares a lot of knowledge from many different sources. But if science proves us wrong, we're going to go with science. And as we evolve, we are going to learn even more than what we're being taught now. So this is a graph that I can't take credit. I borrowed it from Livia. She borrowed it from somebody else. I have no idea who created this. But this is how I like to sum up this evolution piece, right? The relative truth of where we are today is down here in this third order, right? We're imperfect spirits. We were created many lifetimes ago, simple and lacking knowledge on the bottom left. And through successive lifetimes, we will reach Christ-like perfection, right? That pure spirit type perfection. And as we do, more and more of that relative truth will be understanding to us. We'll have more knowledge, and we will be less and less tied to matter. We will be less and less tied to ego and pride. We will be more and more emanating from a place of love. Make sense?
Yeah.
All right. That's all we need to know. We can go home.
No, but
No.
when you talk about church, we think immediately about the temple.
Well, you do. Maybe everybody may not.
Yeah. Where is the temple of the God?
I don't think that's what we're here to talk about, Carlos. I don't know. You tell me later.
Yes.
All right?
The
Because
temple
Paul,
of the God is outside.
she's going to come out, Carlos. I'm telling you. You don't want that to happen. All right. So how do we advance? How do we wind up here? Why am I right here today? Right? What led to this? Right? What led to where you are today? It's cause and effect. I'm here, a sum total of my decisions and choices, or my lack of choices, that preceded everything today. That's why you're here. That's why you're here, right? We're exactly where we put ourselves, no matter what we're facing. And I know I know this is hard because some of us are facing some really tough stuff, or we faced really tough stuff. And it's hard to say, it's my fault. I created this. But essentially, right, that's the case. Whatever we're going through, it's either a lesson we need to learn or an atonement for a mistake we've made before. Right? I love my friend Peter. If you ever look at Peter's hands, he's got some issues, right? And he'll tell you that he must have done some really bad things with his hands or in a previous life. And he's here. There's also a passage, I can't tell you where I read it, but it's in a book I read at some point. It talked about reincarnations of the same spirit over time. Many lifetimes ago, he was a thief and a robber. He killed people with a knife. Another lifetime, he was a soldier with a sword, and he fought and killed people with a sword, right? Another life, he was a surgeon, and he saved people with his hands, right? So each life that we live, we're going to face the consequences of the choices that we made, and we're going to evolve morally. And as a consequence, we will elevate ourselves along that hierarchy that I showed you.
Dr. Paulo Frutuoso, he said, he's a doctor, and he said, almost 100% of the doctors in the previous life did bad things.
Maybe there's I know a lot of doctors that are still making bad
Yeah,
choices.
continue doing wrong things. Yeah.
Right? Fair enough. I'm sorry. I don't know if the lighting is working very well on this slide. What am I doing wrong?
So you did.
Sorry, guys. Bear with me. Technical difficulties.
Can help you.
Here we go. All right, here we go. Let's see. Nope. All right, I'm going to just advance it with my finger here. What do you think?
Yes, please.
What happened?
It's just
Check the
Look at you. Thanks, Idla. Appreciate it. Can you make out you can't see that very well, can you? Can you see him now?
Always we can
So-
see him.
So the point to this, right? I'm living my life. You're living your life. I've made some good choices. I've made some bad choices, but every moment of the day, you have a choice. We can follow the example of Christ and make changes or make choices based on charity and humility, right? Helping our fellow man, right? We can choose that. Or we can go the other route. Regardless of that, we've made a choice, right? And that effect or that cause of following him and his example has a better path, has a less there's going to be suffering regardless, right? Because there's still things we are working towards, but it's going to be shorter, it's going to be less, and it's going to be easier as we follow his example more and more. Because ultimately, what they're teaching us, right? The take-home message here, right? I did it again, it'll.
Can you do it?
There we go. Ultimately, what chapter 15 wraps up with is wherever you are in life, whatever you're facing, be thankful to God. Be charitable, be humble, reduce your ego, reduce your pride. And if you're like me, I'm extremely thankful for Spiritism. I was on a journey. I was on a path. I'm 55 years old. I know it's hard to believe that, right? I know.
Looks 35.
Thanks, Carlos. I love you, man. I spent my late teens and into my 30s. You name the temple, the cult, the church, the clique, the whatever. I was on a mission to figure out where I belonged and what I believed. Okay, you name it, I tried it. Probably. Well, not everything. The point is, I was lost, and at some point, I said, "The heck with this. I'm going to be an agnostic, not an atheist. I never stopped believing in God." And at some point, I started adopting this belief of reincarnation, of goodwill towards others, of cause and effect. I had no clue what Spiritism was. I had to look at 6 different books to tell you why I believed what I believed. And I met this wonderful woman about 18 years ago, and she let me take her to the airport. She needed a ride to the airport. We were at a conference together, and on that car ride to the airport, she asked me, "What do you believe?" My wife is really, not religious. She's really into Spiritism. Okay, she's really. If you're gonna talk to her or hang out with her, she's gonna talk to you about Christ, and she's gonna talk to you about reincarnation. And what's that?
All connected.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, definitely. So on that ride to the airport, I was just happy she was spending time with me and that she was, going to talk to me. I was not expecting her to ask me what I believed. So I reported to her what I believed. I said, because at this point in my life, it's like, I'm not going to hide. This is what I believe, right? You want to know? I'm going to tell you. And as seriously as anybody could, she basically said to me, "You're a spiritist." I said, "What are you talking about? I don't even know what spiritism is. I don't know what spirit is." "Oh, no, you're a spiritist." Next time I saw her, it was 2 weeks later. I lived in Tampa. She lived in Atlanta. And I went and saw her. Before I left Atlanta, she gave me a copy of Nasolar. If you haven't read it, we have copies out there. There's even a movie that's translated, or the subtitles in English. She gave me a copy of Nasolar and the Spirit's Book. And I just started reading it. And I finally found a book that made sense. It had all these 6 other books or whatever I had to look to and quote to tell you what I believe. There it was in Spiritism. And the reason I tell you this is we don't, or it doesn't teach, I'm right, you're wrong, my way or the highway. It doesn't ask me to believe edicts that don't make any sense just because some guy in the mountain says you got to believe it. It gives you reason, it gives you logic, and to me it explained how life is just fair, because we create our own situation and we have the ability to change our fate every single day by following the example of Christ. And that's why I like how the early Christians didn't call themselves Christians. They called themselves followers of the way. So I hope that you've enjoyed this. I thank you for your time. And if you ever see me straying from this, don't be afraid to kick me in the backside and say, "Hey, Al, you're being a hypocrite." Because it means a lot to me. Thank you so much.
Thank you.